From coffee shops to celebrity headlines, Friends shaped a generation. But 32 years later, their lives off-screen tell stories no one expected. From shocking divorces to health battles, hidden struggles to surprising triumphs, you won't recognize them. What really happened to Rachel, Ross, Monica, Chandler, Joey, and Phoebe after all these years? Let's uncover their journeys now. Jennifer Aniston as Rachel Green. Jennifer Aniston was born on February 11, 1969 in Los Angeles, California. At 25 years old, she played Rachel Green, the runaway bride whose journey to independence captured millions through Friends, 1994. Her portrayal combined charm, vulnerability, and resilience, making Rachel an icon of the 1990s sitcom era. Yet the fame and constant scrutiny behind the cameras foreshadowed the personal battles she would face. Her marriage to Brad Pitt in 2000 began as a Hollywood fairy tale, but pressures from work, public attention, and Pitt's frequent absences for film projects eroded their connection. The divorce in 2005 was highly publicized, leaving Aniston to grapple with heartbreak while maintaining her career. In 2015, she remarried Justin Theroux, but their differing lifestyles and long-distance challenges led to separation in 2017. The strains of balancing fame, media intrusion, and personal relationships left lasting emotional scars. Aniston faced additional private struggles with fertility challenges in her late 30s, compounded by media speculation about her body and choices. She underwent IVF multiple times, which she described as emotionally and physically draining, contributing to periods of depression and self-doubt. Even while achieving critical acclaim in films like The Good Girl and Cake, she fought anxiety and isolation in silence, channeling her experiences into her roles and advocacy. Today, Jennifer Aniston is 56 years old, starring and producing the Apple TV Plus drama The Morning Show, continuing to influence television and film. Her net worth is estimated at $320 million, built from decades of acting, producing, and endorsements. Courteney Cox. As Monica Geller. Courteney Cox was born on June 15, 1964, in Birmingham, Alabama. At 30 years old, she became Monica Geller, the perfectionist chef whose humor and obsessive tendencies captivated audiences on Friends, 1994. Her character's drive mirrored Cox's own relentless pursuit of acting success, even as the pressures of long-running fame began to take their toll. From the start, her life off-camera was as demanding as the comedic perfection she portrayed on screen. Cox married David Arquette in 1999, hoping to build stability while managing an intense career. The birth of their daughter, Coco, in 2004 triggered postpartum depression, amplifying her struggles with anxiety and perfectionism. Differences with Arquette, including his gambling and her prioritization of work, created ongoing tension that culminated in their divorce in 2013. Raising Coco alone while maintaining a demanding career tested Cox's resilience, forcing her to confront emotional exhaustion. While she faced no major physical illnesses, Cox continuously battled the psychological impact of fame and obsessive-compulsive tendencies shaped by her portrayal of Monica. The combination of career stress and personal challenges created periods of isolation and doubt, even as she achieved success with projects like Cougar Town and the Scream franchise. These experiences strengthened her empathy and inspired her advocacy for mental health and women's empowerment through her brand, Home Court. Now, Courteney Cox is 61 years old, continuing her career in television and film, including Scream 7, and actively managing Coquette Productions. Her net worth is estimated at $150 million, reflecting decades of acting, producing, and directing. Matt LeBlanc as Joey Tribbiani. Matt LeBlanc was born on July 25, 1967, in Newton, Massachusetts. At 27 years old, he stepped into the role of Joey Tribbiani, the lovable, bumbling actor whose innocence and charm won the hearts of millions on Friends, 1994. Joey's humorous antics masked the pressures and personal struggles that LeBlanc faced as fame and expectations grew, setting the stage for both triumph and hardship in his life. LeBlanc's marriage to Melissa McKnight in 2003 and the birth of their daughter, Marina, in 2004 brought joy intertwined with challenge as Marina's cerebral palsy required full-time care. The intense demands of parenting, coupled with the cancellation of his spin-off, Joey, in 2006, led LeBlanc into a period of depression, isolation, and alcohol dependency. His divorce the same year left him navigating single parenthood while rebuilding both his career and personal life, highlighting the heavy toll of fame on his emotional well-being. Professionally, LeBlanc experienced both highs and lows after Friends, including acclaimed work on episodes, for which he won a Golden Globe in 2012. He also co-hosted Top Gear from 2016 to 2019, earning praise for his comedic timing and charisma. Yet behind the camera, he struggled with loneliness, the pressure to succeed, and maintaining friendships lost to the whirlwind of Hollywood attention, reinforcing the resilience that shaped both his professional and personal identity. As of 2025, Matt LeBlanc is 58 years old, semi-retired, and focusing on producing projects while prioritizing his family. His net worth is estimated at $85 million, earned through acting, producing, and television hosting. David Schwimmer as Ross Geller. David Schwimmer was born on November 2, 1966, in Queens, New York. At 27 years old, he became Ross Geller, the neurotic paleontologist navigating love, loss, and humor on Friends, 1994. Schwimmer's portrayal captured both intellect and vulnerability, helping to anchor the ensemble and cementing the Ross-Rachel storyline as one of television's most iconic romantic arcs. After Friends, Schwimmer faced professional crossroads, rejecting leading roles to pursue socially conscious work and confront racial and gender inequalities. His decisions led to periods of unemployment, financial uncertainty, and anxiety, while he simultaneously explored theater and directing. His marriage to artist Zoe Buckman in 2010 and the birth of their daughter Cleo brought happiness shadowed by long-distance strains, culminating in divorce in 2017, leaving him to navigate the challenges of co-parenting amid public scrutiny. Schwimmer also faced lingering effects of fame-induced pressure, including early life anxiety and public expectations tied to the success of Friends. These challenges shaped his activism, leading him to co-found St. Glass, a non-profit addressing sexual abuse, and to champion social justice causes. Through these efforts, he translated personal and professional trials into meaningful advocacy and creative output, maintaining his influence in Hollywood. Today, David Schwimmer is 58 years old, actively directing and starring in projects such as Goosebumps, The Vanishing Season 2. His net worth is estimated at $120 million, accumulated from acting, producing, voice work in Madagascar, and directing. Elliott Gould as Jack Geller. Elliott Gould was born on August 29, 1938, in Brooklyn, New York. At 56 years old, he played Jack Geller, the blunt, accidentally affectionate father of Monica and Ross in Friends, 1994. His comedic ease on screen made the audience laugh, yet reality behind the role carried a very different tone. And it was that contrast between public humor and private turmoil that defined the next chapters of his life. His marriage to Barbra Streisand began as a whirlwind, but slowly collapsed under the weight of fame, long separations, and the emotional fallout of his career slipping during the 1970s. Arguments sharpened as their ambitions clashed, and by the time they divorced in 1971, he was left with a heartbreak that shadowed him for years. His second marriage to Jennifer Bogart offered hope, but the demands of constant filming and the challenges of raising two children strained them until the relationship ended not once, but twice. As the years progressed, Gould eased out of physically demanding roles and shifted toward gentler work. The intense schedule of the Ocean's films reminded him how heavy decades of acting had become on his body, pushing him toward voice roles, cameos, and slower-paced projects that allowed him to stay present without sacrificing his well-being. This later career phase became a quiet bridge between the chaos of his earlier life and the steadiness he long searched for. In 2025, Elliott Gould is 87 years old, appearing selectively while spending most days in calm routines centered on family and reflection. His net worth of about $10 million represents a long life rebuilt after failed marriages, career turbulence, and the steady determination that carried him through Hollywood's harshest years. Christina Pickles. As Judy Geller. Christina Pickles was born on February 17, 1935, in Halifax, England. At 59 years old, she played Judy Geller, the sharp, elegant mother who adored Ross and quietly judged Monica in Friends, 1994. Her calm, composed delivery made the character iconic, yet her real life was built on battles few ever saw. And those battles shaped the resilience viewers sensed beneath her polished performances. Her marriage to Victor Loebel lasted 23 years, but slowly unraveled as their careers pulled them in opposite directions. She toward demanding stage and television work. He toward consuming production schedules, raising 2 children while fighting for stability in an industry increasingly cruel to aging actresses left her emotionally worn. When she later found comfort with actor Herbert Edelman, the relationship became an anchor until his struggle with emphysema ended in 1996, a loss she carried into the early years of Friends while hiding grief behind Judy's icy humor. In her later career, Pickles gravitated toward roles that allowed emotional depth rather than physical stamina. Productions such as Grace and Frankie and her award-winning work in Break a Hip reminded audiences of her range, even as she reduced her workload due to age-related fatigue. This shift to selective, meaningful roles allowed her to continue performing without pushing herself beyond her limits. In 2025, Christina Pickles is 90 years old, living a quieter life with her husband, Ian Masters, and acting only when her health aligns with opportunity. Her net worth of about $2 million reflects decades of persistence, built not from ease but from surviving heartbreak, displacement, aging, and the unforgiving rhythm of Hollywood. Ron Leibman, as Dr. Leonard Green. Ron Leibman was born on October 11, 1937, in New York City. At 58 years old, he played Dr. Leonard Green, Rachel's sharp-tongued, fiercely protective father in Friends, 1995. His delivery was so brutally honest that the character became unforgettable almost instantly. But the path that led him to that role was shaped by battles far harsher than anything shown on TV. His first marriage to Linda Lavin lasted from 1969 to 1981, but their shared ambition as stage actors pushed them into competition rather than partnership. The constant tug-of-war over starring roles, opening nights, and professional ego fractured the marriage until it collapsed under its own weight. 2 years later, he married Jessica Walter, and although the relationship endured 36 years, it was never free from tension. In his later years, the physical strain of decades on stage and screen caught up with him. Chronic respiratory problems slowly weakened him, and roles in Archer and Garden State became among the last projects he could fully commit to. Even teaching at the new school required more energy than his lungs could consistently give, forcing him to slow down even as his mind remained sharp and restless. Sadly, Ron Leibman passed away on December 6, 2019, at 82 years old, due to complications from pneumonia. He left behind a legacy of intensity few actors could match, and a net worth of around $1 million, earned from a lifetime of gritty, uncompromising performances from Norma Rae to Angels in America. June Gable. As Estelle Leonard. June Gable was born on June 5, 1945, in Brooklyn, New York. At 49 years old, she played Estelle Leonard, Joey's eccentric, chain-smoking talent agent in Friends, 1995. Her comedic timing and chaotic charm turned a small role into one of the show's most memorable side characters. But long before she ever walked into Estelle's oversized fur coat, her life had already been shaped by hardship and persistence. Her marriage to Michael A. Gable began in 1971 and endured through the most chaotic years of her stage career. While she chased roles on Broadway, he worked behind the scenes in production, and the constant separation created a quiet distance neither of them knew how to close. They had no children, a reality she later admitted left her with a lifelong ache whenever she saw families gather backstage. Yet despite the strain, the marriage held through financial instability, career swings. In her later years, Gable faced the slow toll of an actor's life. Old stage injuries, joint pain from decades of physical comedy, and exhaustion that made it impossible to maintain the pace she once had. Her retirement after Friends was not a choice of comfort but of necessity. She stepped back to care for the man she loved as his health declined, returning only for roles gentle enough to match her strength. Occasional theater work and later film appearances, such as The Week of, 2018, and Somewhere in Queens, 2022, became ways to reconnect with the craft without pushing her body beyond its limits. Today, June Gable is 80 years old, living mostly in quiet retirement and appearing only when a project speaks to her heart. Her net worth of about $1 million reflects a life built from struggle, survival, and a devotion to the stage that cost her much, but gave her a legacy that younger performers still look up to with respect. Max Wright as Teri, Central Perk Manager. Max Wright was born on August 2, 1943, in Detroit, Michigan. At 51 years old, he played Teri, the grumpy, no-nonsense manager of Central Perk, who seemed permanently annoyed with the chaos around him in Friends, 1994. His dry delivery made the character iconic despite limited screen time. Nhưng đằng sau về nghiêm nghị ấy là một cuộc đời đầy tổn thương mà công chúng không bao giờ nhìn thấy. His marriage to Linda Ibarrondo began in 1965 and survived the early instability of his career. But the years after ALF pushed their relationship into darker territory. His worsening alcoholism created distance that no therapy or separation could fix. By 2006, their marriage collapsed under the weight of DUIs, public scandal, and the emotional void that followed Linda's long battle with breast cancer. And when she died in 2017, the guilt and loneliness left him more fragile than ever. His battle with lymphoma defined his final decades. First diagnosed in 1995 and driven into remission, the disease returned with far greater force in 2019, eroding his strength just as he attempted to return to theater work. Years of alcohol abuse had already weakened his immune system, and the recurrence combined with age made treatment nearly impossible. Even roles like The Merchant of Venice and The Winter's Tale became physically unbearable as his condition worsened. Max Wright passed away on June 26, 2019, at 75 years old, after lymphoma resurfaced and spread aggressively. His net worth of about $2 million reflected a career of quiet resilience from sitcom fame to public struggle. Maggie Wheeler, as Janice Littman Goralnik. Maggie Wheeler was born on August 7, 1961, in New York City. At 33 years old, she portrayed Janice Littman Goralnik, the nasal-voiced, heartbreakingly persistent ex of Chandler Bing, whose laugh became a cultural landmark in Friends, 1994. Her comedic fearlessness turned a one-off guest role into a beloved recurring character. Her marriage to Daniel Borden Wheeler began in 1990, rooted in love but shaken by the conflicting demands of art and family. As she pursued acting, voice work, and live comedy, he immersed himself in sculpting, two careers with unpredictable schedules and little time to rest. Raising their daughters, Juno and Gemma, amid financial pressure and long hours pushed both into exhaustion, and by 2000 they nearly divorced under accumulated strain. Only after scaling back work and renegotiating boundaries did the marriage find stability again. Her battles with chronic anxiety shaped the trajectory of her recent career. Hollywood's rejection of her natural nasal voice led to years of insecurity and panic attacks during auditions, leaving her convinced she might never work again. As she aged, she shifted toward voice acting and stage workshops, places where she could create without industry scrutiny. Projects like Archer, Barbie of Swan Lake, and her vocal workshops allowed her to reclaim confidence slowly, on her own terms, without forcing her mind or body beyond what it could bear. In 2025, Maggie Wheeler is 64 years old, still active in voice acting, choir work, and occasional television roles, choosing creativity over fame. Her net worth of about $2 million reflects a career rebuilt not through ease but through perseverance, turning a once-mocked voice into a symbol of authenticity and resilience. Jane Sibbett as Carol Willick. Jane Sibbett was born on November 28, 1962, in Berkeley, California. At 32 years old, she played Carol Willick, Ross's groundbreaking lesbian ex-wife, a character that helped redefine LGBTQ+ storytelling on primetime TV in Friends, 1994. Her calm, warm presence made Carol unforgettable. Her marriage to Carl Fink, beginning in 1992, stretched across 24 turbulent years, shaped by the pressures of raising 3 children while both parents worked in entertainment. As Sibbett devoted herself to acting and activism, Fink built his own career in writing and production, leaving them often living parallel lives instead of a shared one. By 2016, the distance became permanent. It was a breakup she later described as the moment she lost both a partner and the stability she had fought so hard to build. Her emotional battles shaped her later choices. After being suddenly fired from Santa Barbara in 1987, she sank into a long period of self-doubt and depression that followed her into the early years of Friends. As she matured, she shifted toward independent films, memoir writing, and community work, projects that gave her more control and fewer opportunities for the rejection that once crushed her. Recent roles in Winter Wedding, List of a Lifetime, and her work mentoring emerging artists through Story Summit allowed her to rebuild her identity with purpose rather than pressure. Now, Jane Sibbett is 62 years old, working selectively in indie films while running charitable and storytelling programs that support women and families. Her net worth of about $2 million reflects a career sustained not by fame, but by resilience. Jessica Hecht as Susan Bunch. Jessica Hecht was born on June 28, 1965, in Princeton, New Jersey. At 29 years old, she portrayed Susan Bunch, Carol's devoted, grounded partner, helping shape one of television's first mainstream lesbian families in Friends, 1994. Her gentle intensity made the character vital to the show's emotional balance. Nyung kan dung dandan manang a, Liduksay tu nyung noiso, mahekt tung faizodi. Her marriage to Adam Bernstein began in 1995 and survived years of schedules that almost broke them apart. While she committed to grueling theater seasons, he directed television and film projects that took him across the country. Raising 2 children under that strain left them exhausted, and by 2010, their marriage neared collapse. Their bond endured, but not without scars carved by long separations and the heavy demands of parenthood in the public eye. Her battles with mental health shaped the rest of her journey. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder when she was young, Hecht spent years hiding panic episodes behind calm performances, often turning down major roles simply because her mind could not carry the weight. As she gained experience, she redirected her talent toward emotionally rich theater work, earning Tony nominations for A View from the Bridge, Summer, 1976, and Eureka Day. In 2025, Jessica Hecht is 60 years old, thriving on Broadway and devoting her energy to theater-based mental health initiatives. Her net worth of around $3 million reflects decades of steady work, built on talent, vulnerability, and the courage to turn lifelong challenges into art that lifts the people around her. Teri Garr. as Phoebe Abbott. Teri Garr was born on December 11, 1944, in Lakewood, Ohio. At 53 years old, she joined Friends, 1996, as Phoebe Abbott, the eccentric, long-lost birth mother whose sudden reappearance reshaped Phoebe Buffay's identity. Her performance was brief but unforgettable, infused with years of experience and hidden pain. Her marriage to John O'Neill, beginning in 1993, began with hope, an adopted daughter, Molly, and a quiet attempt at stability, but the pressures of Garr's nonstop acting schedule slowly tore the relationship apart. By 1996, the strain of caregiving, financial imbalance, and Garr's own emotional exhaustion pushed the marriage to its end. The divorce left her raising a young daughter while coping with a career that demanded constant reinvention. Behind closed doors, she entered relationships marked by instability, including a turbulent later romance with producer Perry Reeves that unraveled under the weight of her worsening health. Her diagnosis with multiple sclerosis in 2002 became the turning point she could never recover from. Symptoms that had quietly haunted her since the early 1980s finally had a name: numbness, exhaustion, loss of balance, and they stripped her of the sharp comedic timing that made her a Hollywood favorite. A ruptured brain aneurysm in 2006 nearly ended her life, and though she fought her way back to speech and movement, the disease continued to erode her independence. Sadly, Teri Garr passed away on October 29, 2024, at 79 years old, from complications of multiple sclerosis. She died at home in Los Angeles, surrounded by family, closing a life marked by brilliance and unimaginable endurance. Her net worth of $6 million came from decades of iconic roles, from Young Frankenstein to Tootsie. Lisa Kudrow as Phoebe Buffay. Lisa Kudrow was born on July 30, 1963, in Encino, California. At 31 years old, she played Phoebe Buffay, the quirky, guitar-playing outsider whose odd brilliance redefined what Friends' heroine could be. Her charm made the world laugh. Nhung dang sao ting kui a la nhung num zai day ap look ma it I bit den. Her marriage to Michelle Stern, beginning in 1995, was rooted in love but constantly tested by the demands of fame. Raising their son Julian while Kudrow filmed Friends, shot movies, and fought her way through Hollywood's competitive chaos pushed the couple to the edge, especially in 2000, when exhaustion and conflicting schedules nearly ended the marriage. Kudrow's growing career in producing, writing, and leading new projects created even more distance, forcing them to rebuild their partnership through therapy, boundaries, and sacrifices that were painful but necessary. Her emotional struggles made her success even more remarkable. Being fired from Frasier in 1993 left her in a depression that lingered throughout her early years on Friends. Feeding anxiety and a worsening body image disorder she kept hidden behind Phoebe's smile. Even as she won an Emmy in 1998 and became one of the highest-paid actresses on television, Kudrow quietly battled panic, self-doubt, and the pressure to stay effortlessly funny. In later years, she turned to writing, producing, and voice acting to escape the scrutiny that on-camera work imposed. In 2025, Lisa Kudrow is 62 years old, still acting, producing, and leading major projects like Time Bandits while expanding her advocacy for genetic cancer research through Is or Isn't Entertainment. Her net worth of $130 million reflects a career that rose from rejection to global influence. And there you have it, the Friends cast, from their iconic roles in 1994 to their lives today in 2025. So many have grown, struggled, and thrived in ways fans never expected. Which transformation surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into your favorite TV legends, then and now.